Great. Is everybody able to hear me well? Thumbs up. Yes, perfect. Thank you. So welcome to Pukar's first. I'm just admitting people as I'm talking, so I'm so sorry if that's coming in the way. But yes, I'm so excited to welcome you all to Pukar Foundation's first wellness dialogue session. And today it's on myths and facts about suicide. The plan is to have such a talk every month, and through this platform, the plan is to bring to you topics related to mental health, suicide, depression, stress, not only to raise awareness, but also to really build up our own toolkit to help ourselves and others through these challenges that we all face through life, right? But before we jump into the session, I'd like to take just a few minutes, just 2 minutes to introduce Pokar Foundation. It was launched recently. It's a volunteer-driven emotional support helpline that launched in August 2023. The helpline provides free emotional support to anyone feeling stressed, depressed, or suicidal. The thoroughly trained and willing volunteers listen to you and try to understand you without any judgment. And I think we've all been through experiences that help us understand how important such support is. Currently, Pukar, we operate from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. every day. We have a strength of 22 volunteers, and we are looking to increase that this year. And if any one of you are interested in that, definitely reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to speak more about it. We will put the details of Pukar in the chat so that you have the details and you know how to reach out. So without further ado, let's jump right into introducing our speaker for the day. We have with us today Anand, who is the director of Sneha Foundation and has volunteered with Sneha for 12 years. That speaks about his extensive experience in this space. Sneha is a suicide prevention organization based out of Chennai. It's run by volunteers as well, offering unconditional emotional support 24 hours, 365 days a week. You can call them, you can write to them, you can chat with them, you can even visit them in Chennai. So we will share the details of Sneha as well on the chat for ease of reference. The topic of the day is myths and facts about suicide, as I mentioned earlier. There's a lot of mystery around suicide. Not just mystery, it's a lot of fear about broaching the topic of suicide or talking about it. Today, we will dispel most of these myths that surround suicide. But before we get into that, to understand the gravity of the situation with respect to suicide in India and globally, Anand, I hand over the session to you and looking forward really to hearing about all of this from you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anu. And I would like to thank Pukar Foundation for giving me this opportunity and having me here. Anu, can you just? I would like to share a screen. So
Sure.
yeah,
I
before
should
we,
be able to share now.
yeah. So before we address the myths and facts, I just want to give an introduction as to the magnitude of the problem, what we are facing in India, right? So. Yes, we are also used to talking about physical health, that mental health is something that we conveniently ignore, right? So mental health, as you all know, is a state of well-being that enables us to cope with the regular stressors of life and to realize our own abilities, learn well, work well, and contribute to our own community. It's extremely integral component of our health. And it's very important. Probably I would say mental health is more important than physical health, because we are also comfortable talking about physical health, but when it comes to mental health, there is always this stigma of reaching out for help. So I'm glad that Pukar is organizing these events where the volunteers get to interact and learn mutually, because I mean, however long we volunteer for a suicide prevention organization where we provide emotional support to people who are feeling depressed, distressed, and suicidal, it's very important that there is this ongoing training that happens, because each call is different, each situation is different, and no matter how many years of volunteering that we have put in, every call, every scenario, every situation is very unique and very different. So I think it's extremely important for us volunteers to keep ourselves updated with what's happening with any research or any new development in the field of suicide prevention. And I'm sure these interactions will definitely help in volunteers gaining knowledge, and that's very important. I'm so happy to be here today. And yes, I would like to share this, what we call as the suicide map of India. So this is as per the NCRB, statistics, latest statistics of 2022. We still don't have the data for the year 2023. So this map is as per the NCRB statistics of 2022. So as you can see, the total number of suicides in India for 2022 is 1,70,924, and close to 50% of the total suicides attributed to the 5 states. You can see the
Anand, if you're sharing your screen, we're not able to see anything yet. Just wanted to point that out. Yeah, now we can. Thank you. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so this is the NCRB statistics of 2022. So the overall number, the total suicides in India in 2022, stood at 1,70,924. So as you can see, the states of Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, and West Bengal contributed to close to, I mean, I shouldn't be using the word contributed, because these are the states where the suicide rates is very high, compared to the national average. You can see Maharashtra, the total number of suicides 22,746, and Tamil Nadu is second, followed by Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, and West Bengal. And usually we measure the total suicides in terms of the suicide rate, what we call as the suicide rate per 1 lakh population. So you can see the suicide rate of Andaman and Nicobar Islands is 45. Sikkim is 42.5. So which means the number of suicides 45 per 1 lakh population. And if you look at the suicide map of India, the southern states, the suicide rate is very high compared to the northern states. Okay, there are different theories for this. One theory is probably because of the literacy rate. Southern states are more literate compared to the northern states. Again, this is just a theory. It is not being proved. So the reason for higher rate of suicide among southern states is because the literacy is very high. There is more expectation from us, right? And we tend to internalize the aggression if our expectations are not met. And that is probably one of the reasons why the suicide rate is very high in the southern states compared to the northern states. And this data has been consistent for over 25 years. Dr. Lakshmi Vijay Kumar, the founder of Sneha Foundation, along with Dr. Vikram Patel, they conducted this million death study in the year 2000 and 2012. And in fact, one of the reasons why probably they felt the suicide rates in southern states to be very high is on account of underreporting in the northern states. But the reporting bias is also ruled out, because this pattern has been very consistent for over 25 years now. So it is not on account of underreporting. The suicide rate among southern states is actually higher compared to the northern states. So as you can see, the suicide rates, for in Karnataka, it is 18.4 per 1 lakh, right? And Kerala, which used to be 28 about 6 years back, they've actually managed to bring down the suicide rate because of active intervention through setting up helplines across the state. And even in Befrienders India, Kerala, the state of Kerala has 5 centers. So that's actually been uh, a very serious attempt by the government of Kerala, intervention. And because of consistent efforts over the last several years, they've managed to bring down the suicide rate from 28 to 24. 24 is still very high compared to the national average, but they've managed to bring it down. This is another slide which I thought will probably explain the magnitude of the problem, right? So as I mentioned, the total number of suicides in India for 2022 is 1,79,24. So generally, they say there is for every suicide there is a 25% underreporting. Because as we all know, suicide. I mean, we are all working towards decriminalizing suicide, but the rules have still not been framed. There is still some legal confusion with regard to decriminalizing suicide, because the IPC, the Indian Penal Code, has been amended, but the rules have not been framed. So as things stand today, you will still be questioned by the police in case of a suicide attempt. So because of which there is a 25% underreporting. So probably when you add the 25% underreporting, when you factor in the 25% underreporting, the total suicides is 2,13,624. And they say, research and evidence has shown that for every completed suicide, there are 20 times the number of attempts, right? So which means we will also have to factor in the non-fatal suicidal behavior, right? So if you multiply 2,13,624 by 20, right? So the total number stands at 42, 72, and 480. And for every suicide or attempt, it affects 6 other people, right? So which means the total number affected because by a suicidal behavior is close to 2.6 crores, right? So going by this number, a suicide affects 1 in 55 people every year in India. So that is the magnitude of the problem. You can see from this screen that it's just the tip of the iceberg, right? And just imagine, 55 1 in 55 people affected by suicide every year in India. But are we is the government giving the kind of attention that it actually needs? I don't know. I'm not too sure about that. Because to tackle this problem, we have a very, very abysmally small number of mental health professionals. There are only 10,000 registered psychiatrists in India, right? And imagine, they will not be able to give that much time to somebody who's feeling depressed, distressed, and suicidal. And which is why it is extremely important for NGOs like Pukar, Sneha, where we pitch in and we provide the emotional support. We give the space for the callers to talk about what is troubling them, in confidentiality and anonymity is something that we provide. And it's extremely important that helplines like Pukar and Sneha, the work that we do, and as volunteers, uh, we give them time, and because which is not possible for a psychiatrist, right? As I said, it's not just psychiatrist. You also have to probably you take in psychologists, and but the number of suicides and people affected because of suicide, we are talking of 1 in 55 people. So imagine the magnitude of the problem.
Anand,
And
if I may just interrupt you for a second
please.
here, that is a staggering number. I did not realize, that this is the impact, even though I have also been in this space for like 2.5 years now. And as, our participants here, not all of them are volunteers. Some of them are, just interested in this space. I think it really tells us how these kind of talks that help us become more comfortable with this topic really enable each one of us to be able to handle this kind of a situation in some basic form. At least it's like the first aid form. So thank you so much for bringing this up. This is really eye-opening.
Yeah, and just to add to the very small number of mental health professionals, the stigma in taking professional help also prevents people from seeking help. That is something which is actually, it makes it even more difficult for people who are feeling suicidal to reach out for help. And stigma attached to suicide, if you see, is often is deep rooted in because of our own misplaced associations of weakness, or people who are feeling suicidal are very weak, probably calling them selfish. All this is when the general public, or even somebody has certain attitudes about other people. Again, this is based on negative stereotypes and misunderstandings and misinformation, right? So you add the stigma also to it. It becomes extremely difficult for people feeling suicidal to reach out for help, constantly being judged, and globally, if you see the statistics, close to 8 lakh people die by suicide every year. And this is, if you translate, this is probably one person every 40 seconds, and many more attempt suicide. And suicide, by the way, is the second leading cause of death among the age group of 15 to 29. uh, this is only next to the traffic accidents. I'm talking of the global statistics, right? And suicide accounts for 2.5% of the overall deaths worldwide, making it the 12th leading cause of death. This is as per the 2021 data, right? So there is actually a Lancet study. Probably I can share the link with you after the session. And the Lancet study talks about the suicides across the globe. And the Lancet study again was done by Dr. Lakshmi Vijay Kumar and Dr. Vikram Patel. This was way back in 2012, and they came up with a supplementary study in 2018 also. It's available online, but anyway, I can also share the link with you for the benefit of the volunteers. And as I said, before we get into the myths and facts, I also thought of explaining this particular slide, which will actually help us in understanding the mind of the suicidal. there are many theories to suicide, right? But this ecological model is what is very common, and what we use here in India. And this model actually helps us understand the various factors, you know uh, uh, that kind of contribute towards making somebody suicidal. And it could actually be a combination of all these, societal, community level, individual, and it could be a combination of all these in different measures, right? And the other important thing that we have to understand is suicide is a very very complex phenomenon, and it often has multiple causes to it. It's not one reason why somebody will probably end their life. It's a very complex human behavior, right? It is an outcome that requires several things to go wrong at the same point of time.
I think that right there, Anand, is a myth, right? That a lot of us feel that somebody has died by suicide or tried attempting it because of some one problem that they're facing. This itself is busting one of those myths. So thank you for that.
Yeah, so there is no one cause of suicide or no one single type of suicidal person. There is that's what Dr. Lakshmi always keeps saying. There is no single cause, or there is no universal cause for suicide. Several things, number of things have to go wrong simultaneously for suicides to happen, which is why it's a very very complex human behavior. And what we can do is be of help to someone who is feeling suicidal. As they say, suicide is a cry for help. It's not that somebody wants to end their life. They're finding it extremely difficult to cope with the pain that they're going through. And it's a cry for help. It's when somebody says that I'm feeling suicidal, they're actually asking for help. And what we can do is probably provide them the emotional support, right? Which is what is possible from our end, right? And as normal human beings, we are not doctors, or we are not mental health professionals. But for suicide prevention, it's not required that you need to be a mental health professional. All you have to do is just be of support to them, and provide them the emotional support at that point of time, right? So I will move to the next slide. Probably this again will explain you know uh, put things in perspective. Yeah, this is what we call as the mind of the suicidal. I mean, we saw the various factors that could lead someone to feel suicidal: the societal, at the community level, individual, peer, and family. But we will look at how the mind of such a person works and how he or she feels, right? So as I told you, suicide is a very complex human behavior, right? And we have to understand that there is no simplistic reason, and there is no simplistic solution to this, to suicide, right? It's not that easy. And but we can also be assured that being suicidal is not a permanent state, right? It's a state of intense emotions, and it can last for a maximum of 2 to 3 weeks, right? And beyond which the ideation would come down. And if we are able to offer support to somebody who's feeling suicidal during the 2 to 3 weeks, right, we are there, and we will be of help to that person. And what is this impulsivity, right? So somebody who's feeling suicidal, right? Research and evidence has shown that prior to an attempt, 2 weeks before an attempt, people have constant intense thoughts of dying, right? The final act, however, will be done in a moment of impulse, right? And if at that moment support is given, a suicide can be prevented, right? And ambivalence, this again is very, very important.
Just a quick note on that, on impulsivity, because this is one of the biggest myths again, that most of us who are, hearing about suicide feel that, suicide always occurs without warning, right? That is the myth that we have. But like you're rightly saying, there have been many warnings, but we just fail to recognize them. And then the moment of suicide seems like an impulse.
Yeah, so again, research has shown that 80% of the suicides, right, who have people who have attempted suicide, they have talked about it, and are ambivalent. So what is this ambivalence? The person is constantly oscillating between the wish to live and the urge to die. You're kind of caught between the wish to live and the urge to die. It's not that he or she wants to die, but he or she cannot go on living in the present situation, which is unbearable and painful for them. And in this state of ambivalence, right, we kind of, as volunteers, I do understand there are, others who are also, attending this session, but as volunteers, as helpline volunteers, suicide intervention, what we do is we cash in on the ambivalence. If you can increase the wish to live, suicide can be prevented, right? And of course, you have 15 to 20% of the suicides where people are intent on dying, right? But 80% of the people who have attempted suicide, they have talked about it, they've given indication, that they are feeling suicidal, they are lonely, they are distressed, they are depressed. Like you rightly mentioned, probably we have not been able to identify that, and as I said, suicide is a form of communication. It's a cry for help. By listening to someone who is feeling depressed, distressed, and suicidal, you can bring down the intensity of the suicidal feelings. And again, as I mentioned, the intense uh, 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 emotions and thoughts of suicide can be only for a maximum of 2 to 3 weeks, right? But the ongoing stressors can cause the person again to feel suicidal, right? So this is, again, we have to keep, providing the intervention at regular intervals, right? Somebody who's feeling suicidal, who's extremely agitated and wants to end it all, right? We have to be of, we provide support to them, not just during the 2 to 3 weeks. We ensure that the person is feeling okay even after 2 to 3 weeks. Like I said, it will last, the intense emotions will last for 2 to 3 weeks. It will come down after 2 to 3 weeks, but probably because of ongoing stressors, that the person can again feel highly suicidal for another 2 to 3 weeks also, which
So
is where we have to.
yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I'm constantly interrupting you because I'm spotting the myths there, and I want to make sure that it's clearly stated out so that it's very visible for us. What you're really saying right now, and I'm hearing it loud and clear, is that the myth that we believe that suicide can't be prevented, right? Is it's heartening to know that that's not true, because if you do spot the signs, if you are equipped to provide some support emotionally, if you also realize that it lasts only this long and it also has after effects, so be there at that time as well. It can be prevented. That is the essence of what you're saying, from what I'm
Absolutely.
understanding.
Yes.
And it's so important for people who are attending here to know this, because not all of us are volunteers, like you rightly said. And the whole point of this kind of a session is to eventually, over time, equip ourselves with at least those basic first aid, where we are able to, as just friends, humans, wives, husbands, sisters, just be there for somebody else, even if we are not a volunteer at a helpline. So this is great insight. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think the probably the important message that that all of us can take from today is, Yes, you're right. Suicides can be prevented. And what is even more important is suicide prevention is everybody's responsibility. It's not just left to psychiatrists and mental health professionals. Suicide prevention is everybody's responsibility. And as volunteers, as human beings, we can be of support, we can be of help to anyone who's feeling distressed, depressed, and suicidal, right? Yeah. So moving on to the next point, which is perfectionism. I think this is kind of self-explanatory. People who expect everything to be perfect, absolutely the way they want. Anything less becomes unacceptable for them, and hence life becomes worthless, right? And rumination is, you're constantly ruminating. It's a constant churning of one particular thought. It keeps coming to you over and over again. Yes, yes, I want to die, I want to die. And again, these are recurring thoughts. As I said, uh, they will be constantly troubled by just that one thought, that I want to end it all, I want to end my life, right? And the most important thing is what we call as the tunnel vision, right? So the person will, who's feeling suicidal, will not be able to think about anything else, the other than the option of other than death. They will not be able to think about anything else, and uh, it's kind of, that's why they call it the tunnel vision. I think the exact technical word is, it's, what is that, pre-suicidal construction of thought, emotion, and action. That's what, it's very technical term which is used by mental health professionals. Everything will point towards suicide. As far as they are concerned, everything will point only towards suicide. The last one is the rigidity, which is the lack of flexibility in thinking, seeing situations as just black or white. Example, I have a relationship problem, right? And I have a relationship breakup. Either I marry her or I die. I'm not, it's just seeing situations in black or white, not anything else. So this is how the mind of a suicidal person will work, and this is how they would feel. you know like I said, ambivalence, that's a very very important area where we can pitch in and help, when they are caught between the wish to live and the urge to die. So which means there is this wish to live, right? And if we are able to cash in on the ambivalence and focus more on bringing them to the idea of wish to live, uh, that's how they popularly call, right? It's a seesaw battle. All of us, we are all aware of the seesaw, right? Constant, you're kind of caught between the urge to die and the will to live, right? And we have to cash in on the will to live, the wish to live, right? And as volunteers, or as people who are kind of trying to help people who are suicidal, we should be hopeful that yes, it can be prevented. I think that's extremely important, because even in our day-to-day lives, right? We come across different situations, different problems, both at work and also at home. And there are, we probably, our own values, beliefs, and attitudes, right, over a period of time, we have formed certain opinions and certain beliefs, right? Okay, somebody who's going through a financial difficulty, yes, it is justified, right? Somebody, a college student or a school student going through a relationship breakup, it's not justified, right? It is because of our own values and beliefs and attitudes, that we have formed an opinion and saying, okay, fine, somebody who's feeling depressed or distressed or suicidal because of a particular problem, that is justified. Whereas the others I will not accept. It's our own, we have to come out of our own discomfort,
Right.
even in trying to help somebody who's feeling suicidal, instead of trying to find a solution to the problem.
Yeah.
Like I said, there is no there is no simplistic solution to this problem, right?
Right.
And we can't find solutions for somebody else, right? I mean, even in our own lives, we have not found solution for a lot of problems. So how can we kind of find solution for somebody else? The only thing that we can do is provide emotional support,
Yeah.
not be very judgmental, not be very critical. When somebody is saying that they are feeling suicidal, they're not trying to gain any attention here, right? We have
Yeah.
to take all suicide attempts as serious, right? We cannot just because somebody is saying I'm feeling suicidal, we can't come to that conclusion that they are trying to seek attention. I would probably go one step further. Even if they are trying to seek attention, we will give the attention, because at the end of the day we are saving a life,
Yeah.
right? So that is extremely important, because that's another common myth with which a lot of people, they keep they keep asking, are they using this as to blackmail? Probably if I don't get this done, I will end my life. I think it's extremely important. uh, do not dismiss a suicide attempt as simply being an attention gaining device. It is likely that the person is probably doing it to gain attention, right? And therefore the attention is needed, right? That's how I think we have to look at it. And the attention that they get, right, may ultimately save a life.
And then so many beautiful points that you mentioned in this section. And I'm sure you might be, going ahead with the myths and going to talk about it specifically. But what you said about the seesaw, the wish to live and the wish to die, that itself brings about an important myth that we usually come across, which is that people who are suicidal, we just consider that this is what they want to do. They really want to die, which is not the case, right? They are also struggling with this, whether they want to live or not, and entering in at the right moment and providing that support can make all the difference.
Yeah. So see, okay, fine, I will then probably move to certain myths. And
And
you,
I'm sure our participants will also have questions, so maybe we'll have 10 minutes at the end for everyone to just ask their
what
own.
is the time now?
It's
11:40. Okay.
11:40.
I mean,
So,
if you have any questions, I will be happy to, probably address them. In case you have a list of, myths that probably you want to ask, I will.
Anand, you're opening up a Pandora's box. I always have questions. So, since you've given me the opportunity, I want to address the biggest myth that, at least it was for me when I started off in this space. It was the biggest myth. Is it is it a bad idea to ask someone about whether they're feeling suicidal? If you ask someone about whether they're feeling suicidal, will it increase the chance or put this idea in their head and make it worse for them? This is probably the biggest myth that I've come across.
Okay.
And what are your thoughts on this?
So yeah, Anu, how are you feeling today?
I'm excited actually.
Are you feeling okay? Are you feeling good?
I'm feeling good. Yes.
You have a headache?
No headache.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
Yeah. So by asking you this question, do you have a headache? Am I planting the idea in your mind?
That I might get a headache. No. No, that's a really good way to bring it up. Yeah.
Yeah. So when it comes to asking the suicide question, see, in fact, research has shown that the most effective way of suicide intervention is to ask someone, "Are you feeling suicidal?" Okay. Talking about suicide or asking someone if they are suicidal, it is not going to encourage a suicide attempt, or it is not going to plant the idea in their mind, right? Talking about suicide provides the opportunity for communication,
Yes.
right? And fears I mean, not just suicide, right? All of us, we know if there is any fear, and fears shared are more likely to diminish, right? So just imagine, we spoke about the stigma associated with suicide, right? Somebody who's feeling suicidal, right? Whatever be the reason, they are not able to talk about it to anybody, even people closest to them. And here is somebody who's going to ask, are you feeling suicidal? And I'm sure, a lot of volunteers here, when you ask the question, are you feeling suicidal, to a caller, and the response is yes, the relief that the caller gets, here is somebody who's asking this question. I've not been able to talk about this to anybody, because of whatever be the reason, stigma, or my own fears. And here is someone who is asking me, are you feeling suicidal? And when I say yes, the relief that I get, right? So talking about suicide will not plant the idea of suicide in somebody else's mind, right? And probably I will take it one step further. Even if you think, it is going to plant that idea, what better place than to talk about somebody who's feeling suicidal to Pukar or to Sneha or to any other helpline, right?
Yeah.
Which is why we are all here for. We are
Yeah.
here to prevent suicides. We are
Yeah.
here to provide emotional support.
And
Right?
even as friends or family members, if I'm noticing that somebody is down and I feel like they might have that thought in their head, asking them about it, like you rightly said, opens up that opportunity for them to speak to me about it. So that's really a great perspective on that. Thank you
No,
so much.
even if I keep asking you multiple times, if you don't have a headache, you're not. I'm not going to plant the idea of Anu having going to have a headache because I'm
Yeah,
asking you that question.
yeah, yeah,
You're feeling okay. You're feeling good. You're going to
yeah,
say I'm feeling good, right?
yeah,
So that's I think a very very important myth that has to be cleared, right?
yeah.
Talking about suicide only provides the opportunity for communication,
Yeah.
right? As I said, it's a cry for help. Somebody who's feeling suicidal, they need help, and
Yeah.
they don't know how else to reach out to us,
Yeah. Thanks, Anand. That's a
right?
wonderful thing. And I think if the participants are resonating with this idea, because I know this is a problem that or myth that many of us face, if you're resonating with it, would love to see some reaction, some thumbs up, heart, whatever you like to put, so that we see that it is getting across to you as well. Um, Anand, if I may ask you one more myth before,
Yes.
if you have set of myths that you are commonly talking about, we would love to hear that as well. But one is people who attempt suicide or even have these thoughts, they're considered to be very, like you mentioned earlier as well in the session, they're considered to be selfish, or even sometimes they're considered to be cowards, that they don't want to face life. What are your thoughts on this?
Somebody feeling, you mentioned selfish, right? I
Hmm.
mean, why do you say selfish? I just want to understand the question better.
Right. So that that they're not concerned about the impact that this will have on the people around them. And your iceberg clearly showed that it actually has impact on 5 to 6 people every time someone does this. But not considering that and still going ahead selfishly to end your own pain while causing pain for others. So that's the selfish part of it.
Okay. So actually, there is much evidence, to this contrary view, right? So I would probably say the mind of a suicidal person, will be that he or she will hold the belief that they will be lessening the burden on the loved ones by no
Hmm.
longer being around them.
Interesting. Beautiful perspective. Yeah.
Right? So we kind of, I do understand, right? Probably without not taking into account, not taking into consideration the impact that it would actually have on the loved ones and the close family, right? It's probably, I would say, the other way around.
Hmm.
I can't go on living like this, and I don't want to be a burden to my close loved ones. So
Oh,
probably by ending my life, right, I am only lessening their burden,
right,
right?
right. That's a great perspective.
Yeah. And the other, as I said, when it comes to the stigma, around suicide, I think everybody in the society is probably contributing to it, you know
Yep.
even the usage of words, right? I mean, we just spoke about somebody who ending their life, uh, being very selfish, you know
Mm,
and the other thing is probably somebody who is feeling suicidal or who's ending their life. They are cowards, right?
yeah.
They are, kind of mentally weak, right? Actually, if you see, I mean, as volunteers, we've handled so many calls, and it actually takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
It's for somebody to actually end their life,
Yeah.
and calling them cowards. Or I think the other common thing, probably I don't think I brought it up in this session. We tend to use the word commit suicide,
Yeah.
right? Because the word commit is normally associated to a crime, right? So just like somebody dies by heart attack, or dies because of cancer, we used to we encourage volunteers also to not use the word commit suicide, because commit
Mm,
is something which is associated to a crime. you
yeah.
know uh, we generally say, commit a murder.
Yes.
We don't use that when it comes to suicide. We say, die by suicide,
Yeah.
right?
That's such a practical point. I think each one of us here should definitely, if nothing else, take note of this. That when we talk about it, use the right language and the right words.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, I think, yeah, as I said, the stigma can color our perceptions, thoughts, and actions. And it is, again, as I said, it is only getting reflected in our language and behavior. Thanks to uh, cinema also, that has also kind of contributed to
Yeah.
calling somebody, seeking professional help for mental illness, also branding them, as probably, I've come across people using words like crazy, dangerous.
Yeah.
you know, uh, that's something that should be avoided, right?
Right. Right.
And we have to start practicing that,
Yeah.
in our day-to-day lives, right? As I said, over a period of time, our values, beliefs, and attitudes uh, were formed because of our own life experiences.
Yeah.
And trying to use words like insane, dangerous, crazy, people who are feeling suicidal to be weak, calling them cowards. I think it should probably start from each one of us,
Right.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, for whatever reason, we may have used such words in the past,
Yeah.
but I think once, now that we have an understanding about suicide
Yeah.
and what goes through somebody who's feeling suicidal, right? I think it's important that we also start applying that in our
Yeah.
day-to-day lives. Yeah.
So with this awareness, what you're saying is that we have to begin using more compassionate language, which is very, very important and something that each one of us can do here without any training. So thank you so much for that. I see Ashwini. Ashwini, first of all, it's really nice to see you here. She has raised her hand and probably has a question. We have 10 minutes more and would love to hear from more of you as well. Ashwini, you have a question?
Yes. Hi, Anu.
Hi, Ashwini.
Hi, Anand.
Hi, Ashwini. Yeah.
Thank you for this session, and thank you for presenting all the facts. So you were telling something about the mind of a suicider. You were telling like the mind, he feels that he has lessened the burden of the family. You were telling something about that.
Yes, in response to being selfish. I think it was probably in response to the question I asked about.
Yeah. Suicide is selfish, right? That's what you
Yeah.
asked, right? Yeah.
So you were telling that he feels that he has lessened the burden of other people who are dependent on him. Is it like that?
No, I was saying the contrary view is, in fact, I can probably suggest a list of books also, maybe after the end of the session, right? So there is this book written by Dr. Thomas Joyner, right, on myths about suicide. So,
Okay.
so he has done extensive research on suicide, and he's a suicidologist, right? So he talks about the contrary view. He said the mind of a suicidal person is kind of very, very distorted, or he's not able to think, so much, as I said, recurring suicidal thoughts and rumination, right? So it's so distorted, and often holds the belief, that they will be lessening their burden on the loved ones by no longer being around, right? To instead of saying that selfish, because they are not taking into consideration the impact that their death will have on the loved ones. It's the other view, you know saying that the mind of a suicidal person, the belief is that they will be lessening the burden on the loved ones by no longer being around.
Okay, Anand, I just want to interrupt you.
Yeah.
So I know a case where the suicider very well knew that he's burdening the family. He very well knew that family will be in trouble. After he dies, they'll be in total trouble, financial. He knew very well. He has written in his suicide note also.
Okay.
He knew that. What I want to say is here, he just wanted to die. He couldn't bear the stress or whatever you mentioned, perfectionism. He didn't, he couldn't, he had his own expectations on life and he couldn't get over it, and he committed. He had decided already. It was a planned suicide. And he knew that there will be burden on the family. And he was also sure that his wife will take care of the family. He just wanted to commit it. He just wanted to be out of the world. So he knew very well. That is what I want to tell.
Okay, I'm so sorry about what happened, Ashwini. Yeah. I mean, like you're saying, he was so intent on dying, right? That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Right?
So here
Okay.
he was very sure there is burden on the family, but he was also very sure, okay, I'll die. This is my relief has come. I'm going. He didn't even attempt. It was one time he did it, but he had that, as you mentioned, he was always mentioning that he will die. He was mentioning, but people around didn't think so much, and they should have helped him, or he should have sought help, but he died.
So he gave clear indications.
Yes, it's very clear indication. For nearly 2 to 3 years, he gave the indication, but people around thought that it was just, though his wife was telling, why are you telling like this? It's wrong to tell. He had made up his mind. So that point, I just wanted to, it was little contrary to what I knew. So he knew the burden he will come on the family. So he very well knew. That's all, Anand. Thank you so much for all the facts, and thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, and thanks, Ashwini, and thanks, Anand, for responding to that. And we have time for just this one last question. I think Munmun has put it in the chat. She says, what is the relation of self-harm and suicide? Does a person doing self-harm commit? We don't want to use the word commit anymore, as we just spoke about. Does a person doing self-harm want to die by suicide later on?
Yeah, okay. So there are actually two categories of, the self-harm. We generally categorize into two. One is the non-injurious self-harm, and the other one is injurious self-harm. In the sense, a lot of people, especially in the age group of 15 to 22, they feel a sense of relief when they harm themselves, right? But they do it without the intention to die. So that is what we call as the self-harm without intention to die. And there is self-harm with intention to die. So with intention to die, we are very clear, they want to end it all. But a lot of people, a very common example is school students using compass, to harm themselves, or even a knife, or a blade, right? Where they can probably keep that in their pencil box, or even in their pocket, with just a paper kind of rolled over it. Nobody will be able to tell whether they are actually carrying a blade or a knife, right? So self harm, if you ask me, that is also, I would say, to be treated on par with somebody who's feeling suicidal, because we don't know the extent to which they are going to harm themselves. We may probably think that I'm using a knife or I'm using a compass, and probably just hurting the first layer of my veins, but we don't know how deep the wound is going to be. It's if it's going to ultimately lead to some kind of death, then it's extremely fatal, right? So we will definitely treat self harm with on par with an attempt, because somebody who is doing it frequently, they need help, because there are other ways of coping with our day-to-day stressors, and we don't generally do it by harming ourselves.
Right. Thank you, Anand. And I think what you're just to summarize, what you're saying is, err on the side of caution. Consider it as
Absolutely.
an attempt. There's no harm in doing that and providing the same level of support as you would to somebody who is attempting suicide. I hope that answered your question. And Rajalakshmi, I do see your question there. We are running short of time. What we can do is maybe close the session, and if Anand has a minute or two right after we close, and is able to take your question, we can do that. I hope that's fine.
Yeah.
But we did want to close on time. So thank you, Anand, very, very much for all the insights that you provided. And thanks to everybody who has joined us here. We do intend to do this on a monthly basis, so that we are, able to equip ourselves better to handle it for ourselves and for the people who are around us. We do have a very short 3-question poll to understand how the session went for you. If you can just quickly take it on Zoom itself, it would have popped up on your screen right now. It's a very short 2-second poll. If you can please take that, and it will really help us to understand what other sessions, what would be more helpful to you. Again, while they do that, Anand, thank you so much for your time. And we do have one question from Rajalakshmi.
Yeah.
If you are able to stay
Sure.
back for a minute. Thank you. And thanks everyone for being here. We look forward to seeing you again next month as well, when we do this with another topic and another speaker. So Rajalakshmi's question is, what sort of follow-up do we have to do when a client comes up with suicidal ideation?
Yeah, so Rajalakshmi is a volunteer with
Rajalakshmi, would you like to unmute and speak?
Yes, sir. Hello, sir. So I'm not a volunteer,
Okay.
but I've joined through a link. So I just want to know, because when I started my private practice, I did had a client who had suicidal ideations.
Okay.
We did had a session, but after that, the client dropped a text that you abandoned me and he blocked me. So it left me with a lot of doubts, like, did I did something wrong, or should I have done some follow-up, something like that. So that is where this question came from.
Yeah. Yes. So we do a follow up. Somebody who's feeling extremely suicidal, right? So there is a risk assessment that we do.
Okay.
Somebody who has just the suicidal thought, we classify them as risk. One with just a suicidal thought, right? And somebody who has concrete plans, of ending their life, Like
Right.
probably it can be their exam results, right? I get my
Mm-hmm.
exam results and I don't do well, then
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
probably I will end my life and uh, maybe taking sleeping pills or whatever be the means, right? It can be
Mm-hmm.
using a rope or it can be pesticides, it can be anything. Okay.
Okay.
We do a follow up, right? Again, this is done only with the consent of the caller, right? We
Okay.
can't,
Okay, sir.
again, we can't force them or it is done only with the consent of the caller. And
Mm-hmm.
if the caller is highly suicidal, like I mentioned, having concrete plans, or
Mm-hmm.
uh, probably they would have attempted in the last 2 to 3 weeks, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And we identify those callers as high risk callers, people
Okay.
who are in active risk, and we do a follow up. We with their consent we take their number, and we reach out to them.
Okay.
Like I mentioned, the 2 to 3 weeks time period is when they have intense
Mm-hmm.
emotions and thoughts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we encourage them to stay in touch with us, and in case we don't hear from them, we do an outgoing call. We call them, and find out how they are doing. And
Okay.
after that 2 to 3 weeks, when
Mm-hmm.
the intensity has come down, we
Mm-hmm.
encourage them to stay in touch with us. And whenever they have suicidal thoughts, we encourage them
Mm-hmm.
to call us, and continue to be of support to them.
Okay. Okay, sir.
To
Okay.
answer your question, yes, there is definitely a follow up that we do.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, but that is again done only with the consent of the caller, because some
Mm.
callers will not be comfortable giving their, sharing their name and contact
Yes,
number,
sir. Yeah,
right? Yeah.
understandable. Understandable.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Thank
clearing
you.
the doubts, sir.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Anand, and thank you everybody. And wanted to also mention one more time, Pukar does have an emotional helpline that we operate every day from 10 to 2. We have put the details on the chat. Follow our Insta page and share this helpline number to as many people as you can. And Sneha's details are on the chat as well for those based out of Chennai. So thank you again, everyone, for joining today, and we'll see you again next month. Thank you so much, Anand, again.
Thanks, Anu. Thank you. Thanks, Pukar. Thank you.